All right, everyone. Marco Palmiero, founder of Ulysses in Dubai. In this video, I'm going to be talking with you about the power of networking in UAE in Middle East. Now, let me make a distinction before we dive into this topic, because I'm not going to be talking about networking as the vast majority of people talks about online. I don't believe in that type of networking. I think it's a waste of time. What I believe in is purposeful networking, which is focused on networking with the right people and targeting the right groups of people to network with. And one of the things that many times I see people get wrong when they talk about networking is that a lot of people say to you, just talk with as many people as possible, and ultimately somebody is going to lead you to an opportunity. Well, that's totally wrong and totally false, because if you keep talking about acquisitions with somebody who's only interested in, surfing in California, the chances of you getting business out of these guys and them benefiting from what you do are slim to none. So the point is, networking should always be focused on specific groups in specific audiences that you resonate with and that can add value to you as well as you add value to them. So my perspective is that networking should always be a purposeful activity that you plan ahead of time and you just don't do randomly, because I see that as a tremendous issue across the world as well as in Dubai. Many people say, well, you're just going to talk with a lot of people, take a lot of meetings, and you never know what's going to happen. Well, I don't believe in that statement at all. I do believe in talking casually with a lot of people who have similar interests to myself and see if there is an opportunity for us to do something together. But just talking with random people and hope, God from the sky is going to come down and, bring a business opportunity for the two of us. It's just ludicrous, and I think it's not true. But with us having recognized this statement and assuming you are aligned with what I'm saying about networking, let's talk about some of the good things about networking in UAE and Middle East and some of the bad things about networking. I'm going to share my personal experience here. Now, as I first came to UAE, I didn't used to network a lot back in Europe or the United States. And it was a practice that I needed to get accustomed to as I came here. And what I soon realized was that people valued networking a lot in the UAE and in the Middle East. They liked the idea of interacting with people in a very relaxed environment and talking casually about their passions and the business that they were in, and then see if there was an opportunity for them to work together. And that was because of course, there were many cultures that live in the UAE, and also people wanted to get to know you a little bit more from a personal level. They were not necessarily interested in business alone. They first wanted to understand what kind of person you were. And so I got used to networking, and as I said to you, I wanted to approach it in a very purposeful manner. And what I did was I had my assistant and as well as myself making a selection of all the places I wanted to go to, or the private business clubs I wanted to be in, so that I can talk with people that had similar interests to myself. Again, I wasn't really interested in having interactions with people that were on the beach every single day, or that were partying at the club, or that we're interested in many different things that I'm not really passionate about. What I wanted to do was to find a community of like-minded individuals in business, acquisition, finance, that were pursuing similar interest or parallel interest, for example, real estate, and then have a productive interaction with them around challenges, opportunities of the UAE and Middle East. And that's exactly how I approached networking, and what honestly gave me the best results. And my take on networking is that if you approach it in a purposeful manner like I do, it's also going to be easier to break the ice, right? Because you're going to go to places in or events where you already know what the topic of the conversation is going to be. And chances are most of the people attending these events or these places are going to have these interests in common to you. And so it becomes a lot easier to have an icebreaker with these people and then start to build some common ground together. And again, not really passionate about networking, but provided we're doing it in a purposeful manner, I saw a lot of value coming out of it. And the value I saw that was coming out of it was not in the short or medium term, it was more long term. And one of the reasons why I think that is the case is because people come and go from the UAE. And so you might meet a person that is very much aligned with what you're doing, but he might be in the UAE for just 1 or 2 years. And then all of a sudden he's not there anymore. And so there's not an opportunity for you to do business together. Instead, if you build purposeful relationships that last for a long period of time, then the other side is going to trust you a lot more and is going to look at you as somebody who actually lives in the UAE and has a real interest in the Middle East and or the country. And so I've seen many people come back to me, or I saw myself texting people after a long period of time, simply because this type of interaction needed more time to be built properly. And as we saw that we were all committed to UAE or the Middle East, and we were staying here and keeping our interest within the region, we became more in tune with one another, if that makes sense. And so I saw again that most of the places and the events I attended to didn't lead me to immediate results, which is in some cases what a lot of people seek out of these events. But they produced long-term outcomes for me. Not a lot of it, to be frank, but the few that I got out of it were very valuable. So I think overall, balancing everything out, that was a good trade-off in terms of time that I committed to these things. Now, in terms of the negatives, again, there is this concept that a lot of people are not staying in the UAE or Middle East for a long period of time. It's a place of transition. And so you might be saying, well, why is it even worth for me to do networking at all? Well, my perspective is that it is a big part of the culture, a big part of how people do business here. You might see something that is crazy, which is a lot of people hanging out, having coffee, talking business casually. And I didn't really see that in European countries or America. I might be wrong, but I haven't seen that being so relevant to the business environment. Instead, if you go to Dubai, for example, and you go to the financial center, you're going to see people having coffee every hour of the day. And in most cases, those are going to be casual business meetings or casual networking opportunities to meet one another. And again, you might say, why building the relationships in the first place if this guy is going to leave after 2 or 3 years? Well, I think that is the beauty and also one of the negatives of networking. You never really know. And that's why we continue to do that. And I personally continue to do that in a purposeful manner. And I think from that perspective, it is interesting also to see that networking in UAE is also used very much for first-time encounters, even for a business perspective. So let's say that you're not necessarily going to attend an event, but you have an interest in talking with somebody at a specific firm or collaborate with a specific company. Most of the times what's going to happen is that you're going to meet for a casual coffee, or you're going to meet somewhere that is not the office, and you're going to have a very casual discussion with the other person. And that is not something that I've seen happening in Miami, for example. I might be wrong, and you correct me if I'm wrong. If you're in Miami, tell me about it. But the point here is that a lot of business relationships are also started in a very casual manner, also as a sort of like networking encounter that has been scheduled between two parties or between 4 or 5 people. And so my perspective is that as long as it is purposeful, there is some use to it. Of course, as you progress and as you build a restricted circle of people that you trust and that have strong networks, you're going to need less networking that you do kind of like on the offensive, because you're going to have your circle already. But I still do it occasionally, and I think it's a good practice. But yeah, overall, I think there is much more need for networking if you are in UAE and Middle East compared to other parts of the world, because this is simply the way the region interacts, the way people get to know you and understand you, and also how they get to like you and how they get to commit to doing business with you. I haven't seen many business relationships being built only in the boardroom, to be frank with you. And of course, that is a little bit of an issue for a lot of people. It was an issue for me too. But what I came to realize is that sometimes one extra meeting can lead you, very, very far. And if you're willing to accept that trade-off for time and resources that you commit, then you're going to get disproportionate results out of many relationships. And that is not only for events and, again, networking clubs or stuff like that. It's also for one-on-one interactions that are very casual, and there are just exploratory discussions to understand if you can do business with the other side. So that is my take on networking. Of course, there's a lot more that I can share about it, but I think as long as it is purposeful, there is some value to it. And that is pretty